Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Thank you to our witnesses for being here. I especially like to thank witness, former U.S. federal prosecutor and former United States Department of Justice Attorney Shan Wu. My colleagues, thank you to the American people watching around the country for joining another hearing of the Congressional Committee to undermine American independence and to defend Donald Trump. From the early days of our nation's formation, our founding fathers were very clear. The upkeep of democracy requires constant proactive maintenance. In his letters to fellow founding father and his political opponent John Taylor, then former President John Adams wrote, "Democracy has never been and never can be so durable as aristocracy or monarchy. Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. Those passions are the same in all men under all forms of government, when unchecked, produce the same effects of fraud, violence, and cruelty. American democracy has always been a question of progress, not finality. Democracy has been given to us with the blood, sweat, tears, and efforts of Americans who came before us, who struggled long and hard to build and protect every democratic institution we have. Indeed, our country's dark past, the very foundation of our economic juggernaut on the world, was premised on a sick institution called slavery that some now want to even erase. This democracy that our ancestors struggled to bring us all into, these rights, some of which some Americans do not even have all of, are fragile. Remember that the great Republic of Rome was destroyed. Greece was destroyed. Germany of the early 20th century, destroyed. Spain. These great empires are gone. Human history is laden with examples of great nations, republics, and democracies that were once beacons of human progress and eventually destroyed by hubris, autocrats, and the rabid ambitions of an empowered few. Falls do not happen overnight, but the signs are there if you want to see them. In those republics, those democracies, slowly but surely, rights are stripped away. My fellow Americans, that's happening here in this country. The right for a woman to choose what to do with her body, stripped away in 15 states. Immigrant children being stripped away from their families. The gains of Blacks for fair representation, voting rights. Recognition of the historic lack of creating an even playing field, stripped away. Slowly but surely, the structures, the laws, and the institutions intended to make the nation great have been and continue to be eroded. Not to mention the souls of the human race and minorities being eroded every day by injustices. We have a blueprint that we can see how that's being done. Project 2025 plans to upend structures, institutions, and the basic rights that have supposedly been afforded to Americans to make it great. It's a playbook for Donald Trump's second term and a plan for the destruction of America as we know it. Despite flashy headlines printed over American flags and the likes of obnoxious men who give loud speeches about their love for making America great again, Project 2025 delivers no such thing. Project 2025 will slowly but surely strip away our rights. I've asked for a hearing about Project 2025 because I believe it is a dire warning to us all of an individual and others around him's desire to weaponize the government for their own empowerment. It will rip our experts out of agencies to be replaced by sycophant political appointees. It will strip women of even more healthcare access and rights. It will further dehumanize undocumented immigrants and punish their family members, even those who are American citizens, for daring to be associated with them. It will restrict free speech in schools to only allow far-right approved agendas and curriculum. It will erode our freedoms, all under the vague guise of making America great. And yes, because it is a grand Republican plan, Project 2025 calls for severe cuts to Medicare and Social Security. I'm not just saying that. The authors of Project 2025 are saying that. Here's a video outlining that.
2025 believe that a woman should be able to have an abortion if her doctor says that she needs one. It's a yes or no question.
Abortion is not health care.
So
Abortion
that is a no?
the murder of a human being.
We're also going to have teams, because we can multitask, to deconstruct the administrative state and to go after criminals and the traitors in the deep state. So suck on that.
We need to have the biggest mass deportation system ever in the history of America, because it is unjust and illegal and evil that more than 10 million illegal aliens have come to this country. There are great plans using the Department of Homeland Security to return these people back to south of the border.
The best thing that people can do right now, if you're a young person, is get involved in one of these things like American Moment or Project 2025 or the Trump campaign. We got to fill up the White House with Reuters.
Project 2025 is something that's going to transcend the next 4 years, the next 10 years. It really is, for the first time in the history of the conservative movement, the apparatus for policy and personnel.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Playing patriotic music, claiming to love freedom, demonizing every group in the nation that is not like you, will not protect you and your civil rights. The Project 2025 playbook is a plan to give Donald Trump the powers of a dictator, just as he wants. That's the plan. This is the man who threatened to send the Department of Justice after political opponents. Trump even sent his lawyers to the Supreme Court to argue that he should have criminal immunity even if he uses the military to assassinate someone who simply disagrees with him. We heard his Secretary of Defense say that he asked the military to shoot people because they were protesting. Yes, that's what his defense secretary said on TV, and there's recordings of it. This is the man who jokes about being a dictator just for a day and teases the idea of a third term for a US president. This is a man who wants to implement sycophant loyalty tests. He's a man who will fire every employee in every agency who upholds their pledge to serve their country over the president. Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to the continuation of American democracy as we know it. We are using this congressional committee for the third time to attack a state-level felony conviction of a former president by a jury of his peers. Republicans on this committee have used $20 million of federal taxpayer dollars to deliver Trump more power and attack his rivals. They are threatening public servants far outside their legal jurisdiction and even threatening private citizens who dare not to give Trump what he wants. The reign of Lord Trump has already begun, and he isn't even in a second term. It's vital we remember our founding fathers' principles and that we see Project 2025 for what it is, a Republican plan to slowly but surely strip away rights. This is about freedom versus fascism. I beg every American watching, don't be fooled by plastic patriotism. Don't be fooled by those rhetorically referring to freedom without the substance to back it up and without any care for all people's rights. A true understanding of freedom comes from respecting the sacrifices of our ancestors, our democratic institutions, and a robust rule of law. Our country is not and has never been perfect, but our country is great, and it's our duty to keep it that way. Our country has never shied away from improving our flaws, but what is being promoted is a distraction. It's counterproductive and threatens years, decades, centuries of progress. Let's keep moving forward. Let's not go back to the dark times. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back without objection. All of their opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witnesses. The Honorable Brad Smith is